There is a job opportunity in front of you, and you cannot get a clear read on it. You have looked at it from every angle. You have asked people you trust. You have made the list, and somehow you are more confused now than when you started. Because the problem is not that you do not have enough information. The problem is that you do not know what to do with what you are feeling. Maybe something about it excites you, and that excitement makes you nervous because you have been excited before and it did not end well. Maybe something feels off, but you can't name it. And you have talked yourself out of enough things that you no longer know whether to listen to that feeling or push through it. Maybe you're just exhausted from going in circles inside your own head. And underneath all of that, there is a question you might not say out loud. How do I know whether this is a good fit when my brain is telling me one thing and my gut is telling me something else? If that is where you are, this episode is for you. Welcome to your Trauma-Wise Career Guide. I'm your host, Cyndi Bennett, trauma-informed career coach and founder of the Resilient Career Academy. And today's episode is for everyone who has ever stood in front of a real opportunity and had no idea what to do with what they were feeling. We are going to talk about why evaluating a new role can feel so much harder than it should. We're going to talk about what is actually happening when your brain and your gut are pulling in different directions. And we're going to talk about how to make a grounded decision even when a clear signal is not available to you. For a lot of people, the difficulty of trusting your instincts in a career decision is not really about the decision. It's about a much longer history of learning that your own perception might not be reliable. Sometimes that history lives in the workplace. Difficult environments, managers who contradicted what you were clearly observing, situations where you were made to feel like your read on things was wrong. When you have been in places like that, your ability to trust what you notice gets worn down. Your system starts flagging everything as uncertain because uncertainty became the safer bet. But for many people in this community, it goes back further than any job. It goes back to environments much earlier, where what you sensed was real was regularly dismissed, overridden, or used against you. Where you learned over time that your inner experience was not a trustworthy source of information. And then that history follows you into every professional decision you make, including this one. So when I talk about gut instincts feeling unreliable, I'm not describing something that broke recently. I'm describing something that may have been shaped over a very long time. And I want you to know that working with that rather than around it is exactly what this episode is about. When you are standing in front of an opportunity and you can't get a clear read, there are usually a few different things happening at once. Part of what makes this so hard is that they can feel almost identical from the inside. The first is activation. Your nervous system is registering that something significant and uncertain is on the table. This is not information about the opportunity itself. It is information about the fact that the opportunity matters to you, and that mattering involves risk. This kind of response shows up for almost everyone in high-stakes moments. It doesn't tell you whether to move towards something or away from it. The second is pattern recognition. Something about this situation is reminding your system of something it has encountered before. This one deserves more careful attention because sometimes it is carrying real information and sometimes it is importing a familiar shape onto something that is genuinely different. The work is learning to tell the difference. The third is what I think of as old learning. The voice that says you will probably get this wrong, that you cannot read situations accurately, that other people know better than you do about what is right for you. This one is not about the opportunity at all. It is about what you were taught about your own perception. And it tends to be the loudest in exactly the moments when you most need access to yourself. Being able to name which of these is speaking does not make the decision easier, but it does give you something to work with. Because not everything that feels like a warning is a warning, and not everything that feels like excitement means something is safe. So let's talk about what to actually look at. One of the most useful things you can do when internal signals feel unclear is to build an external structure for gathering information. Something that does not require you to fully trust your gut because you are working with actual evidence. I use what I think of as a 4-layered evaluation. 4 layers, each one carrying different kinds of signals. The first layer is the structural one. What are the actual conditions of the role? Compensation, title, location, flexibility, benefits. Does the structure of this opportunity support your life as it actually is? This layer is where the clearest information tends to live, and it is where most people spend most of their time. It matters, and it is not the whole picture. The second layer is the relational one. Who would you be working with most directly? What do you know about your potential manager, your team, the culture around them? And importantly, how did they treat you during the hiring process? The way an organization runs its recruiting is often an early preview of how it operates when things get hard. Did they follow through when they said they would? Were they clear and consistent? Did you feel like a person in those interactions or like a variable in their process? You're not looking for perfection. You are looking for consistency and basic respect. Those tend to be among the first things to erode in a difficult environment, and their absence in a low-stakes context is worth paying attention to. The third layer is the pattern layer. This is the one that requires the most care, especially when your instincts feel unreliable. The pattern layer is where you ask, does anything about this situation remind me of something I've been through before? And if so, is there actual evidence of that pattern here? Or am I recognizing a shape that this situation does not actually have? This is hard to do alone. It is often where having support, whether from a coach, a therapist, or someone who knows your history well, makes a real difference. Because you're trying to distinguish between a genuine signal and an old story, and those two things can feel remarkably similar. The fourth layer is the fit layer. Does this work match who you are and what you are trying to build? Does the pace of this environment support how you work best? Are you being asked to show up in ways that feel sustainable or ways that would require you to consistently work against yourself? This is not about finding a perfect role. It is about noticing misalignment early enough to ask about it, rather than discovering 3 months in that the conditions are not workable for you. I want to give you some specific territory to explore in the interview itself. Because when internal signals feel unclear, asking direct questions and watching how they are answered is one of the most grounded tools available to you. You are not waiting for your feelings to tell you something. You are gathering observable information. Some areas worth exploring are: ask about how decisions get made on the team. Who has input? How are disagreements handled? You're not evaluating the answer for correctness. You are watching how someone talks about it. Do they describe their team with respect? Does the way they talk about how things work leave room for people to have some agency? Or does it sound like information moves in one direction? Ask about what the hardest part of this role has been for the person in it before you, or for people on the team generally. Someone who is being honest with you will engage with that question. Someone who pivots immediately to talking about culture and opportunity without actually answering it is also telling you something. Ask what success looks like in the first 90 days and how that gets communicated and supported. You are listening for whether expectations are clear and whether feedback is framed as something that helps you or something that watches you. And if something concerns you after an interview, I want to invite you to consider naming it before you dismiss it, not as an accusation, simply as a direct question. I noticed this and I wanted to ask about it. What comes back will carry real information. Here is where I want to spend a few minutes because I think this is where the real difficulty lives. You have done the work. You have looked at the layers. You have asked the questions. You have tried to sort activation from pattern recognition from old learning. And still you do not have a clear answer. And what I want to say to that is, sometimes you will not. And that is not evidence that something is wrong with your process or with you. Certainty is not always available. Sometimes both paths carry real risk and real possibility, and the work is not to resolve the ambiguity before you move. The work is to build enough of a foundation under yourself that you can move without certainty being a requirement. One thing I find useful, rather than asking which option feels safer, ask yourself which option you feel most equipped to navigate. Because the question is rarely whether something will be hard. The question is whether you have what you need to meet it when it is. And I want to say this clearly. If you make a decision and later discover it was not the right one, that is not proof that you cannot trust yourself. It is proof that you are a person making choices with incomplete information in a complicated world. Careers are not a series of correct answers. They are a series of decisions you move through, learn from, and carry forward. That has always been true for everyone. What I hope you take from this episode is not a formula. It is a way of working with what you actually have. You may not have a clear, confident read on this opportunity. You may be sorting through activation and pattern recognition and old learning all at once. That does not disqualify you from making a good decision. It just means that the process looks different for you than it might for someone who has never had reason to question their own perception. That difference is real, and it is worth working with, not around. If you're holding a real decision right now and you want support thinking it through, this is exactly the kind of work I do with people in the Resilient Career Academy. There is a link in the show notes to book a free discovery call. Come as you are. If this episode landed somewhere real for you, I would love to hear about it. Leave me a comment, send me a message. I read everything. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Your Trauma-Wise Career Guide. I'll see you next time. You're not walking this path alone. Every step you take toward a trauma-wise career is an act of courage, and I'm here cheering you on. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with another survivor who needs to hear this message. Together, we're rewriting the rules of career success. Keep rising, keep healing, keep building.